なんだあのモビルスーツは。
Mobile Suit Gundam. Side Stories. The Missing Link. I mean, I know we're just getting started, but I have to stop right there and analyze the title. Mobile Suit Gundam. Okay, sure. It's a Gundam game, that makes sense. Side Stories. Again, makes sense. Not only is it a side story of the Gundam universe, but it's a collection of side stories, the various side story games that have been made thus far. And then we come to The Missing Link, the title of the main side story game that is featured in this compilation. And here's where the whole name sort of falls apart, because the only missing link I can even identify in this game is it sort of shows the origin point of the Ifrit Schneid, as shown in one episode of Gundam Unicorn. And even then, depending on who you ask, Gundam Unicorn isn't even considered canon, so yeah. The story has sort of two sides, a Earth Federation side and a Principality of Zeon side, however they are kind of more or less largely similar. The Federation side features a penal battalion that seems to act as a hit squad for a very rich man, who then has them executed by their own side, and the Zeon side just seems to be a squad of screw-ups that don't fit in anywhere. Oh, and the leader of the Federation side is the father of one of the main characters from the Zeon side, and that's about it. Largely the story is just kinda sorta there. It's not as great as, say, the Blue Destiny games, or even the Thoroughbred mode from Gundam Encounters in Space. But what's nice is you do have the option to play both of those in this game, which is kind of a nice little bonus. Now the gameplay itself is a bit of a weird thing to talk about. See, this is a side stories game, similar to the Blue Destiny games on the Sega Saturn, and as previously mentioned, it includes the Blue Destiny games on here. However, unlike the Blue Destiny, it's not a first-person game, it's a third-person game. However, it does feel very slow, and that seems to be based on not being well optimized for the system itself, if that makes sense. Like, it just feels like this game could play way faster and just doesn't. Likewise, this game's got a bunch of issues. First of all, the AI is stupid. When you run into enemies, about 80% of them will just stand around doing nothing, while 20% of them try and actively engage you. I don't know if this is just to, like, save memory or to stop you from being overwhelmed or something, but it just felt weird to see enemies just standing around in front of their opponents not doing anything, or watching them actively just run into walls for no reason. Likewise, if you thought this already sounded very easy, and for what it's worth this game is very easy, there is a win the game button. I'm not even joking. Seriously, just double tap the X button and you will do an action roll, which makes you completely and 100% invincible. Which, I mean, I guess is good, considering that there are moments where you'd need to be able to dodge out of the way of oncoming attacks and stuff, but just to make it a flat-out invincibility button seems a bit strange. Other than that, your mobile suits are equipped with 3 weapons, 2 ranged, 1 melee, as well as a power-up meter. Once you've earned enough energy, you can use that energy to perform a more cinematic attack, which creates a close-up of your mobile suit while they stomp the opponents into the dust. You can also use that to summon your 2 teammates to automatically attack your opponent for you, because if you're not actively doing that, they're basically standing around doing nothing. The whole teammate mechanic in this game was weird, considering that the entire game is about controlling a team of 3 characters, but only one character is only ever doing something because the other 2 are too stupid to actually do anything. Effectively, your 2 teammates are basically an extension of your own health bar, because once your mobile suit gets taken out, you can swap to them until your character revives. But other than that, your teammates are basically completely worthless. Now, going back to why this gameplay is weird, this game is a third-person shooter, and you know, fine, that's what Mobile Suit Gundam The Missing Link is, but the thing is, that's not what the other side stories games were that are included on here. Again, Mobile Suit Gundam The Blue Destiny was a first-person game, so was, I want to say it was Lost Battlefield Record on the Dreamcast? It was on here too, but I've never seen an actual copy, so I'm not super familiar with it. But that too is a first-person mech game, and that actually changes up the dynamic greatly. Because it's now in third person, you have this much more expanded view around you, instead of a very narrow view where you have to constantly check around you and make sure you're not getting stalked from behind and just blown up instantly from that one guy you missed behind you. And weirdly enough, this game is a lot slower than those games. I mean, hell, for the sake of reviewing this, I went back and played the Blue Destiny games on the Saturn. Those games are way faster, way more arcadey, and way more fun. But, in this game's defense, while this game does completely cock up the Blue Destiny and Lost War Chronicles, or whatever it was called on the Dreamcast, and Zeonic Front, which was a tactical squad-based game, not some arcadey thing. On the bright side, because the various side stories all utilize the same engine, this means you can now play the Thoroughbred mode from Encounters in Space without having the most bizarrely confusing and obtuse control scheme ever. You actually have something that feels like it's kind of sort of competent. But the trade-off is you lose Scott McNeil's legendary voice acting talent, and that's a hard thing to part with, it really is. Continuing on with things that make this game rather unfortunate to play, well, the actual gameplay in this isn't very lengthy or fun. Like, there is a list of the record times it takes to beat certain levels. The lowest I've ever seen on my own battle record is, and I'm not joking when I say this, 7 seconds. And okay, having short levels might not be too bad if there's a lot of them, and there are, but what really kills it, there's about 2 minutes between each mission just trying to load the mission. Because first you have to watch the story if you're interested in that. Second of all, you have to go through the briefing, which even if you skip, still takes about 10-20 seconds. After that, you then have to select your mobile suits. And if you're playing the VR missions, well, you have to make sure your machines are set up for the proper atmosphere. And if they're not, then you have to go through and pick a team that will work for the environment. And no, you cannot simply have one team for space, one team for land. You just get one team and have to actively modify it, which takes several minutes. Then you have to okay the mission, and then if you're playing the story mode, you have to go through cutscenes, and then you get to play for 7 seconds, and then you have to load and then start all over again. Not exactly great, is it? But there's got to be something redeemable about this game, right? Well, there's lots of gameplay here if you can stomach the loading and the incredibly awkward setup for trying to make sure your team is properly outfitted for the environment instead of simply having 2 teams for a space and a land mission. But even then, most levels devolve straight down to destroying all the enemies, with the notable exception of 2, both of which will probably automatically game over you 1,000,001 times, because one of them is destroy only the commander units of your opponents, which, that's fine. I can actively do that. The problem is my teammates won't, which means I have to turn off teammates for it. And the other one is stealth missions, which, don't make me laugh, this game does not do stealth in any way, shape, or form. It's just trying not to get into a perimeter of an enemy. But again, your teammates will just rush them, and you will instantly fail over and over and over and over, and it's awful. But there's got to be something positive here, and if there is, it's the mobile suits, because there is a metric ton of them. If there has ever been a mobile suit in any of the side story games, it's in here. I'm not going to remotely lie about this. This game introduced a mobile suit that has very quickly become one of my favorite mobile suits of all time, the Pale Rider, which is very similar to the Blue Destiny, just shows up, its eyes turn red, and you're like, oh, that thing's gonna be mean to me. And then he totally is, and he's an absolute metric ton of fun to play as. However, I do have to dial it down again, because while this game does go into Gundam Unicorn territory, it misses out on some pretty big Gundam Unicorn players. I mean, you missed the Gundam Unicorn for one thing, which, I mean, that's fine. That is the blandest Gundam ever designed. Go nuts and get rid of that. No Banshee, which, I mean, that was slightly cooler than the Unicorn anyway. But I have to immediately take away every single point I could possibly give this game for its mobile suit roster, with the exception of the Pale Rider, because while this game does cover Gundam Unicorn, there's no Stark Jagan. And I mean, let's just be honest, the Stark Jagan was the one thing about Gundam Unicorn that made it awesome. Seriously, for the 2.5 minutes it's on screen in the first episode, that's literally all of Gundam Unicorn you ever need to see. You don't have to go see bland Gundam, the most wishy-washy protagonist ever, and unnecessary amounts of CGI, which, don't put CGI in Gundam. Just watch the Stark Jagan and, well, that's really all you need. But it's not here, and that kills me. Although that said, I will begrudge this game 1 point for having the Jim Striker, which is like the second coolest Jim ever made, next to the Jim Sniper 2. So, overall, huge Mobile Suit roster, missing one or two that I would have really cared for, but overall, provided it's a space team, I can make an entire team of 3 of my top 5 favorite Mobile Suits, so I gotta say, it's great, but damn it, add the Stark Jagan, and the Death Scythe, and the original Wing Gundam. I mean, those two don't have anything to do with this, but just add them because they were great. The overall presentation to Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories The Missing Link is... it's okay. The Mobile Suits look great and the environments are okay, but really there just aren't a lot of them. And it gets really bland really quick once you've traversed Desert Area number 4 for the 6th time. And the audio design is just sort of all over the place. Like, I have to commend the voice work. The new voice actors work, and they actually went back and got all the old voice actors from the old games, as far as I can tell, to do new lines for their characters, which is great, with one notable exception. One of your teammates in the Blue Destiny did not get re-recorded lines, and I know it sounds weird that I'm bringing this up, but here's the thing. It sounds like they took the sound clips from the Sega Saturn game and reused them here, but then recompressed them 8 or 9 times, so now it sounds really not good. In fact, I did an audio comparison just for the sake of it, and it's bad. But here it is.
Minovsky 粒子濃度62。これなら敵に気づかれずに接近できます。ほんじゃまぼちぼち行くとすっか。お先に行くぜ、優勝尉。粒子が濃ければ対空砲火は来ませんね。いつでもどこでも巻いとけばいいってもんじゃないのさ。んじゃもうぼちぼち行くとすっか。二人とも油断をするなよ。
And this one character just seems to have notably less lines, which makes it really awkward when everyone else is chatting it up and this guy's staying quiet. And it sounds really weird when he starts talking and you can kind of hear a staticiness to his voice clips. Like, it's not hard to copy sound. Why is it that you're using sound clips from the Sega Saturn and it's sounding actively worse than when it came from the Sega Saturn? I mean, I just bloody well did it in this video and it sounded fine. I have no idea, but aside from that one character, the audio work is fine. I'm just thoroughly confused. I mean, I don't know if he passed away in the meantime, or they just decided not to recast this one character, but it just really pulled me out of the moment and seemed weird as all hell. Now, if you want a copy of Mobile Suit Gundam Side Stories The Missing Links, it's not wildly expensive. My copy costs $10, and despite the fact that, and I'm not joking when I look back at my recordings for this review, about 80% of each video is like loading between levels. There's a lot of levels here to play, but I'm not sure I'd say it's worth it. For $10 though, it's a lot of gameplay, and if you're really lucky, you might be able to track down one of the original prints of this game, which came with, and I'm not even going to begin to hide my jealousy, it came with a metallic model of the Pale Rider, which again has jumped to my 3rd favorite mobile suit of all time. This thing is freaking awesome, but overall, for $10, it's not bad. It's a bit janky, it's not the most fun, and it's not the most intuitive, but it doesn't require a lot of knowledge of Japanese. Just those few virtual reality missions which require you to not attack specific enemies would be the only areas that ever really became a problem. And for $10, that's not bad. Sure, this game is definitely mindless, and I'd really only recommend it to hardcore Gundam fans who want a game that's absolutely mindless that they don't really have to put any effort in playing. But it's a good popcorn game if nothing else. I mean, I've played this on and off at the end of the day for like 20 minutes, did a few missions here or there, and that was fun. But as a sit down and just play through game, I can't really recommend it. This is definitely one that's going to be a slow burn, and it's not going to be the most enjoyable if you do it that way. And if you're a fan of the Blue Destiny games, or like Zeonic Front, you're probably just going to find this to be a complete mockery. So, there's also that.
隊長、こちらは準備完了。岬に来てくれ。
よし、移動する。隊長、追ってだ。リッパ、後ろ。貴様か。装備が強化されてる。